I made a coaster today. I made it on a design based on Breath of the Wild, and I made the design myself. So I drew this elephant based on the Divine Beast, one of the Divine Beasts from Breath of the Wild. That's the Legend of Zelda video game. For those who don't know, is this wonderful elephant. He has a proper name. I don't remember what it is at this point. I did this one in Inkscape rather than Illustrator. At first I was kind of against Inkscape, but I must admit I'm really enjoying their drawing tools when it comes to things like creating these fabulous shapes, because much easier than Illustrator. You can kind of ignore the whole Bezier curve tools and still make these awesome shapes. So yeah, I'm slowly coming around to Inkscape. But anyway, I did this one in Inkscape just to see if I could, number one. Number two, because it exports natively in SVG file format, which is what the Glowforge takes. So awesome software, free for Mac and PC. Go download it, play with it, do fun things with it. But here is the coaster design that I made and then cut out. So we've been doing some coasters with just engraving in it. These dark areas are engraved, so they're lower in the coaster than other places. And in this particular one, he had such a big tummy area. I was afraid a mug or something would be wobbly on it. So I decided to take this one a step further and do it as an inlay. So my first step was to, of course, send this to the Glowforge, and here's a little video, time-lapse video of that happening. The little bit at the front of the elephant's head did not actually engrave. I did not notice until I was actually making the inlay that it did not engrave. However, I had not yet taken the tape off of the coaster, so I was able to put the coaster back in and re-engrave just that area, put the front headpiece of the elephant back in. It wasn't as hard a process as I thought. The camera inside the Glowforge made lining it up actually fairly straightforward. I wouldn't say it was 100% spot on, but it was probably 99%, and in this case it was accurate enough. He's a little bit skinnier in the head, not skinnier, the headpiece is a little bit closer to the eye than maybe I wanted in my original design. It's not quite a perfect circle now, but very close. Saved me some wood so I don't have to reburn the coaster. Well, here's the little tiny video of the actual re-engraving of the headpiece. I have not yet peeled off any of the masking, and I'll actually show you. This is really cool because all of this overburn on the wood is really just on the tape. It's not on the wood at all, really. Well, it can be on the wood if your tape is not on there good, but this is the proof grade material that comes with the tape, so it's actually on there really good, and it's actually quite satisfying when you peel the tape away to see all that wonderful clean wood being revealed. Ta-da! Now I'm going to go through off camera with a little scalpel X-Acto knife thing and lift up the edges, because all of this in here has to be peeled off as well, and these are all like individual little pieces. So that only takes a few minutes, but I just want to do that with a scalpel. You don't need to watch me do that. But I wanted to point out here, the inside of this engraved really nicely, and it was all completely brown if you remember from the little time-lapse video. This is now scratched here because I did this with my fingernail, mostly because I'm going to be putting the inlay in this area that's already been cut out or engraved, embedded, so that it becomes flat at the end, hopefully, fingers crossed. So I'm going to actually sand this a little bit just to make sure that I get all the ash and soot off, because I don't want the tape on the back of the inlay to not stick. The proof grade inlay, the proof grade, what do they call it? veneer. Thank you. The proof grade veneer actually comes with 3M tape on the back of it already, and it's masked on the front, so when I run it through the laser, it looks masked like everything else. It will cut the pieces and there won't be any overburn because I'll be able to peel that tape off. But the back has 3M tape that I should be able to just stick on here. We'll see if it works, but here's a little video run of the cutting of the inlay. Well, this is the veneer. After it came out of the cutter, I used tweezers to pick it up so it did not fall through the crumb tray into the bottom, because that would have been really annoying. I was very careful and I used, you know, just some nice craft tweezers, cheapy things to pick it up, pick up the smaller pieces. And I have all the pieces here that I'm going to need to inlay. It should just now be a process of peeling the cover off the front and peeling the tape on the back and putting it into place. I'll show you real quick the coaster base after I used a bit of sandpaper in the middle to clean out some of the soot-like areas. I didn't take a lot of time with this because I'm excited I want to get to the inlay, and I may regret it later if it all falls out, but I think it'll be okay. There's no more really coming off with my fingernail. It's a much smoother surface now. I don't think I got in his tail there. I'll have to go back and work on that a little bit. But the rest of the areas, I mean, if they were any smaller, it would be really, really hard to get in there. I just used a bit of sandpaper, sheet sandpaper, kind of folded up in a curve and got into the little areas. I mean, again, I wasn't trying to be real precise with this, just because I'm excited and I want to get it in there. So, you know, take that with a pinch of salt. Before we get to the inlay, I fibbed to you. I went ahead and decided I needed to do a little bit more cleaning up in the soot of the internal engrave, and you know, because this is real life and reserve the right to change my mind. But I found that my scalpel, or my X-Acto knife blade here, was really good at getting into the corner areas, right up to the seams, even in these little tiny places here. And just doing a little bit of a scratch, loosened a whole lot more of that material. I was able to clean out his tail, etc. And then just used my paintbrush to brush it off, and my tape to like dab around the edges. So really we're good to go. I'm not going to be able to show you the exact me peeling it off and putting it in because I don't yet have a mount for my cell phone camera here, which is what I'm using to record this. But I will put in a few pieces and stop and like let you know how it's going, give you an update. I was going to start with this eye, and I was going to just peel it off the back tape and stick it in there, and then as I was about to do that, I had a second thought, and that second thought was I haven't even seen the grain yet because it's all covered in masking. So I want the grain of the eye to go with the grain of everything else. So instead, I opened up this secondary piece, which is the ear flap here. Okay, focus for me here, camera. There we go. So I opened up the ear flap there, and it looks really good. I haven't yet stuck it in there, but it's just kind of laid on top there gently, dry fitted, and it looks like it's going to be fantastic. So it looks like the grain is going horizontal on this piece. So I need to make sure my eye goes horizontal as well to make sure things line up. Everything else should be not have to worry about that. It's just that this circle, I didn't want the eye grain to be going vertically like this when the rest of the grain on the piece was going horizontally. So, I mean, it could go this way, it could go that way. I'll just have to put in the rest of the pieces and then see how the eye lines up. But that's something to think about when you're putting your inlay in, which direction the piece was actually cut from. Okay, so I've input this first piece and it's stuck in there now. Some things I learned. It only took a few minutes, but The cleaning up of the edges of the hole, the interior of the engrave, is really important when using this stuff because when I put it in, this laid nice and flush, flat, almost a little below the surface. And then this end, you can't see now because I fixed it, but it actually stood proud above the surface of the coaster. And I don't mind if it goes in a bit, but I don't want it to stand proud because I don't want to sand down. That veneer is so thin on top. And it's already got a finish that I don't want to mess up. Like the proof grade material comes with a finish already applied. So you don't have to stain it or anything. And I didn't want to mess that up with like sanding on the top of it. So let's see if I can angle it so you can see now. Now it looks all flat. I basically just went back in there with the scalpel, scraped around the edges on the bottom, and stuck it back down. Now this piece may pop out again later because I had to pry it up with the scalpel to get back under there and remove that. So something to take into account. We're definitely going to have to clean up these edges. So I'm going to clean them up a little bit more as I go, you know, right before I lay in the piece to make sure. I think a little bit of compressed air might help me to like make sure there's no debris just like hanging out in the corners or anything. But I'm going to put in a few more pieces and then, you know, share any other learning experiences I come across. I'm real pleased with the way he's coming along. The light in here is kind of difficult for you to see how cool he really is looking. Try and get it to focus on the grain of this wood here. Oh, there we go. Maybe that's a little better. I did not make adjustments for kerf on this particular inlay. I probably should have, but since it was the first go round, I wasn't sure what all would be needed, so I didn't make any adjustments. Here he is, guys, the finished product. The wonderful Divine Beast from the Zora area of Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda. He came out really awesome. He is a walnut veneer on a maple piece of ply. The edges look dark because that's the way they come out of the laser cutter, and I'll leave them that way. You can clean that up, but I'm going to leave that way just because I think that makes it look like a nice, cool finished edge. The inlay was a whole lot easier than I thought it was going to be. The only fiddly bits were scraping out the corners, and that actually wasn't that hard with the scalpel, so I'm glad I discovered that method. To recap the things I've learned, make sure your grain lines up when you're about to do the inlay. Clean out the corners so that there's no goop left underneath. Press them down really good. Use something like the handle of a paintbrush to help you press them in there really good, because otherwise they stand above the surface a little bit. And now they don't at all. You can see how flat that is. It only took one engrave pass. I did not do multiple passes to get any kind of extra depth. That was just on the proof grade material, the SD engrave pass with the veneer just right on top of it, and it fit really well. So yeah, there it is. If any like real experienced woodworkers or people who do inlay more than me, because this is my first time, have any comments or suggestions, tips or tricks, I would love to hear from you. You can put them in the comments below. And yeah, I think he turned out really well. I'm probably going to do the other 3, so I have a set of the 4 Divine Beasts from Breath of the Wild. But I think it came out really cool. I'm quite proud of him. He's awesome. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.